There is a law in my state that most landlords never read. Mine was about to learn it cost $500 a day. By the time he nailed my front door shut, I had already made one call that hurt him and another that would end him. I want to tell you I was calm in that hallway. People always want the calm version. The truth is I stood there and shook, not from fear anymore, from how badly I wanted to do something I'd have regretted. I didn't, not because I'm a good man, because I'd waited 3 years, and I wasn't going to let him cost me the ending too. I could wait 20 more minutes. I lived in that apartment 3 years, rent on the first of every month, 36 months, never once late. I'm not telling you that so you'll think I was patient. I wasn't patient. I was furious, quietly, every single day. I just couldn't afford to show it. I had a landlord who punished people who crossed him and no money to fight him with. So I did the only thing I could afford. I swallowed it, and I wrote it all down. The first thing my landlord, I'll call him Rick, taught me was that he took what he wanted and dared you to say something. My dryer vanished from the shared laundry in my second year. When I asked, Rick told me it was a common area, and things in common areas were, and I'm quoting him, kind of everybody's. I didn't argue. I wrote down the date. I wrote down what he said. I put it in a folder, and I sat in my car in the parking lot afterward for 10 minutes because my hands wouldn't stop shaking. A few months later, a pipe failed in the wall. Normal wear, the landlord's repair, by law. Rick billed me $400 for it anyway. When I asked him about it, Rick didn't argue either. He smiled. He told me, "People like you always find the money, or you find somewhere else." That smile is the part I remember. I was a grown man in my own home, being told I was nothing by a man who stole my dryer and billed me for his own broken pipe. And he was enjoying it. For about a week after that, I lay awake at night running through everything I wanted to do to him. None of it was legal. None of it would have helped. And then, somewhere in that week, the anger changed shape. It stopped being heat I wanted to throw at him and started being something I could keep. I paid the $400. I said nothing, and I wrote that down too. Not the notice, the smile, because that was the night I understood the one thing about Rick that mattered. Rick left paper. Every cruelty had a receipt. He thought the paper protected him. It never once occurred to him that paper works both ways. I didn't know the number yet, but I'd started to see that every one of Rick's little cruelties had a rule attached to it, and rules have prices. In my third year, Rick sent me a letter about a parking spot that had been mine since I moved in. I asked an attorney one question, whether the letter was legal. It wasn't, and his office got told so. Rick retaliated within the week. He invented a new monthly fee, a punishment with a $sign on it, for the crime of asking a lawyer a question. That was the moment the fury stopped being about a dryer or a pipe. He wasn't overcharging me. He was telling me I wasn't allowed to defend myself, that there was a kind of person who got to have rights, and I wasn't it. That was the week something changed in the folder. For 2 years, I'd been keeping receipts to protect myself. That week, I started keeping them because they were the only thing I had that he couldn't take. And because, I'll be honest, somewhere in me, I had already decided he was going to pay for the smile. I just didn't know the currency yet. It started at $150 more a month. Then Rick sent the real number, $500 more, every month. That isn't a rent increase. It's an eviction with better manners. A man telling you to leave without having to say the words. So I decided to leave. And the moment I decided to leave was the moment Rick lost the only thing he'd ever had over me. For 3 years, he held that apartment over my head. Make trouble, you're out. But you cannot threaten to evict a man who is already packing his car. The apartment had stopped being something I could lose. It was just a room I was walking out of. That's when I read the law most landlords never read. The unsafe porch Rick ignored for years. The illegal plumbing. A gas heater that, the attorney told me, was never up to code. Each one a violation. And each violation, once an inspector documented it, carried a fine. $500 a day until fixed. I had 3 years of it, photographed, dated, filed. Here's the part I think about most. I wanted to call that inspector the day Rick stole my dryer. I wanted to call him the night of the smile. Every angry bone in my body wanted it to be loud and immediate and now. And I didn't. Not because I was calm, because I was scared, and because some cold part of me had done the math. As long as I lived under his roof, Rick could still reach me. The angriest thing I could do was wait. So I waited until 4 days before I moved out. Then I called the inspector. That invented fee, the one he'd added to punish me for calling a lawyer. I never paid it, but I didn't pocket it either. I put the exact amount in a separate account and told him, in writing, he could have every dollar the day he put in writing what it was for. He wrote back the same afternoon. Not an explanation, a threat that if I wanted to play games with his building, he'd come secure his unit himself. He'd rather have the fight than the money. Good, I remember thinking. So would I. The inspector came the next morning. He measured the porch. He looked at the plumbing. He found the heater. He didn't react the way I had, with fear, with that low, constant anger. He reacted the way the law reacts, quietly, in writing. Each violation, $500 a day, until fixed. I wasn't there when the inspector taped the first notice up, but Rick called me that night. It was the first time in 3 years his voice cracked. And God help me, I'm not going to pretend to you that I felt sorry. I sat in the dark with the phone against my ear, and I listened to him do the math. And after 3 years of swallowing it, that small, broken sound in his voice was the first thing in years that didn't feel like losing. 2 days later, while my things were in storage and the lease was still mine, Rick decided that was his excuse. He let himself into my apartment and nailed the front door shut. I came back from a storage run and found my home, the place I slept, the place that was still legally mine, boarded over like something diseased. Planks, his nails, his hands. He knew I was already leaving. He knew the fines were his own fault. What he did to that door wasn't about the apartment anymore. It was the last way he had left to hurt me. And everything I'd kept a lid on for 3 years came up at once. I'm not going to dress this up. I stood in that hallway and I wanted to find him. Not call anyone, find him. For about a minute, I was exactly the man Rick always assumed I was. Someone who could be pushed until he did something stupid. I sat down on the floor across from that door because I didn't trust my own legs to take me anywhere good. I sat there a while. And then the cold part of me, the part that had kept the folder for 3 years, said the thing it always said. Not him, the paper. The paper was already thicker than he was. I got up. I made the follow-up calls. When the police came, Rick was still there, still talking, over the top of everyone, the way he always did. And then he stopped. I watched it happen. He looked at the folder in my hand. He looked at the officer reading the violation notice. He looked at the door he had just nailed shut with his own hands. And for the first time in 3 years, Rick understood something. Every piece of paper he had ever ignored had arrived before he did. The dryer, the pipe, the porch, the heater, the smile, all of it, filed, dated, waiting. He'd spent 3 years leaving a trail and calling it paperwork. I'd spent 3 years following it, swallowing everything, because it was the only thing keeping me from becoming the man he kept daring me to be. I'll tell you the part I've stopped pretending about. When his eyes came up off that door and found mine, some animal part of me wanted him to say one wrong word, take one step, give me a reason. He didn't. He just got smaller. So I let the paper do what my hands couldn't. The officer was the one who used the word, breaking and entering. In my state, he said, that's a felony. A landlord does not have the right to break into a unit that is still legally yours. Nailing it shut is not a gray area. I still have the folder. I don't need it anymore, but I keep it. People ask me if it felt good. They want the clean answer. The honest one is uglier. Yes. For about a week, it felt very good. And then it didn't feel like anything, because feeling good about it didn't give me back the 3 years I spent small in my own home, flinching at footsteps, rehearsing arguments with a man who'd already decided I wasn't a person. I'm telling you this years later, and I can still feel the heat of that smile in my chest. You don't get those years back. You just learn to carry the anger somewhere. It can't make you stupid. Rick still thinks it was the inspector. The fines, the 500 a day, that's the part he replays. It wasn't only that. The inspector made him desperate. The boring call I made to the police at 8 that morning, after his written threat, before he ever showed up, made that desperation look like intent. That's the call that turned a landlord with a temper into a man with a record. He was never afraid of the quiet one. Men like Rick never are. That's the mistake. The quiet one was angrier than all of them. He spent 3 years believing the rules were his, that he wrote them, that he was the only one who'd ever read them. He never once read the ones that protected me. Some people only learn what the rules are the day the rules finally land on them. Rick learned. Next time, they made a man train his own replacement. They never asked why he smiled when he said yes.